How's it going, Gary?
I'm good. I'm good. Are we live?
We are live.
Oh, nice. Cool, cool. Um, so are people kind of tuned in through a
So
link? Go
yeah,
for it.
so we have some people that are watching through the YouTube stream, or paying attention on our Discord, but most of the action right now is going to our YouTube stream. So we have people that are typing on the chat there, and we have some people that are typing on the main stage chat in our Discord. So we have people
Cool.
that are typing on the chat there, and we
Okay.
have some people that are typing on the main stage chat. I'm getting an echo from you though of myself.
Got it. Got it. I briefly opened the YouTube.
Gotcha. That's why it was
Um,
delayed.
yeah, makes sense. All right. Hey everyone. Thanks for coming through. I don't know if how people might be able to check out this link from the YouTube chat, or maybe someone can help me post it there.
You could
But
post it in YouTube, or you could post it in. I'll link you in the Discord as well.
yeah, yeah. Do you mind? I posted in the Discord, but do you mind posting in the YouTube?
Sure, we could do that.
Thanks. So, um, I want to talk about hyper local and how that might be key to Web3's future. But first, let me do a little background on myself. So, I'm based in the U.S., New York City. I'm gonna split my time between a few different cities, though, and I really care about all things related to human flourishing and planetary flourishing, regenerating the world in many different ways. Um, I'm currently focused on trying to figure out how to build hyperlocal civic empowerment projects in Chicago very early on in that process, and other projects related to um, improving America's culture, economy, etc. Um, I co founded Civics Unplugged, which is all about training high school age civic innovators, and we've trained 1,500 plus in our Civic Innovators Fellowship, digital fellowship, and a child organization of Civics Unplugged is probably what you're more familiar with, DreamDAO, which helps alumni from our Civics Unplugged Fellowship learn how to use Web3 to do good in the world. So I'm all about impact, and I guess, why I even consider Web3 as relevant to impact is because I met um, some of the Gitcoin people, including Scott, who um, basically was like, Web3 is not just a scam, right? I mean, there's obviously a lot of scams, but there's there's a high likelihood that um, without Web3, you're missing out on a lot of things that might be critical to solving great problems or facilitating coordination at levels that we haven't seen before. So that's where the idea from DreamDAO came about 8 months ago. And we just completed season one. And I'm excited to say that I'm shifting my focus a lot more, less from the global level to hyperlocal. And so, what is hyperlocal? So this is a definition from one of my friends who's more of an expert than I am. But hyperlocal communities are geographically local and have connectivity between its members. They vary in many different ways, but they all share a crucial trait, which is these communities participate to create value and return value back to their local communities. There's a sense that the members are in it together, which gives people a personal stake in the survival of the locality as a whole. I'm motivated by care for the community, right? Care for safety, not profit. Um, and so um, I want I have a lot that like, one of the provocations I want to talk about is like, why am I shifting my focus to hyperlocal? But I do want to, for anyone that is able to access the chat, all good if you're not. Kind of, we're doing this a little bit flexibly. You should be able to edit this. If anyone wants to add their name and answer the prompt, like any question you have, insert a question you have about Web3x Hyperlocal. Feel free to do that. I'll give it just like a couple minutes in case anyone wants to do this, but if not, I'm happy to just keep talking.
Yeah, I think a couple of us are checking it out right now.
Cool.
I really like the term hyperlocal.
Yeah, you could think it is a redundant term to hyperlocal, but to the local, but it just kind of, it's like the extra emphasis. Like, no, we're serious about like thinking about improving the material reality for people that are co-located.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that it's redundant at all. I think that it makes you think a little bit and goes beyond the just term local. Locals kind of, I don't know, broad, dated maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of just like almost like doesn't have a meaning at this point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, so feel free to fill it out if you want, but I want to talk about just why, just like where my head's at right now, and would love to just answer any questions about that. I think that's just a kind of simple way we can go about this. So here's something I realized. I realized that there's too many organizations untethered to impact that ordinary people can feel and understand. If it wasn't obvious to you already, Web3, for example, and this is beyond Web3, but Web3 has a crisis of legitimacy in the eyes of most people, especially after Celsius, especially after 3AC, especially after all the different things that have happened in the last, even just the last month, right? But going more broad than Web3, there are just, and I've been in the nonprofit space for a little over 3 years, or have a lot of exposure to it for over 3 years, and now realize that many organizations are untethered to impact. Not just nonprofit organizations, but many organizations are just untethered to impact that ordinary people can feel and understand. So many do-gooders are trying to do things like create organizations that are trying to unite other organizations, like how many collectives, and it's fine, right? Like, there's a reason why collectives need to exist, but it's funny, right? Because like sometimes you create a collective not even thinking about what is like the actual like unquestionable unit of impact that you could articulate to people that aren't just so in like in the like immersed in a particular like industry or world, right? If every organization, I'm not saying there is an organization like that exactly, but if there's a global collective that's just full of organizations and people that just think purely globally, right? Wait, who's actually improving material reality on the ground? Um, and this is not any one person's fault, but people are good at signaling. But how many of them actually do anything? And the default, if I just want to point out, the default, including my content, right, on Twitter, is to create content that resonates with the widest possible global audience. That also means that it means so little to any of the audience members as it relates to their like lives um, as a resident of an area. So I would argue that hyperlocal is the locus of real change. And I ask, like, who's improving material reality for their neighbors? How many people actually even know that they would? And by the way, if there is any questions, comments in the YouTube, let me know and I can pause. But how many people even know that? Even know what they would like to improve in their local neighborhood? It's hard for me to do that, even as someone giving this talk, right? It's part of why I like to focus my attention on some things, because like, wait, it's like I'm not regen enough, I'm not hyperlocal enough, right? I'm not focused on impact enough. Part of why I like to talk about it is because like shit, I need to do it myself. Like, what is even one thing that you would want to see be very different in your neighborhood?
Less plastic on the street everywhere.
Mm.
I live in Mexico.
Great. So that's actually a very tangible thing that if you were motivated to do, and potentially find a systemic solve for that, that's a huge benefit, right? Because I'm sure other people notice that it affects quality of life. Related to what I've been saying is, it just feels like everyone's creating products for mass adoption, and so who's filling the bespoke gaps that make a local community function and feel like home? So I then go on to talk about how, like, I suspect that hyperlocal builders that are actually improving material reality, like doing these things like getting rid of plastic off the streets, they're natural uniters at a time when we're being divided by national and globally focused media meant to narrow us into, silo us into these narrow mimetic tribes. I'm like, oh, you're a progressive, you're a conservative, you're a libertarian, right? Like, there's a business interest in getting us into these little buckets. So I guess the more that I've noticed in my own development, I've been less interested in being part of those narrow tribes. The more I've worked with real people trying to make a real difference, who are not just playing the mimetic tribe game, but are actually trying to like just make things better for their neighbors. I've been recognized by a lot of people for the work that I've been doing in Civics Unplugged and DreamDAO. I think, it's appreciated, but I always try to be my number one critic, and I'm not sure, right, how to think about the impact that I've made. And so I'm not asking anyone else to do something I wouldn't do. I don't even know if I'm not even fully sure if what I'm saying makes sense, but this is why I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how I can make a difference in the local community. I grew up outside Chicago. I have some connections there, and I wanted to see what I can do there. So love to kind of open this up to any questions anyone has. Oh, I see a couple of questions being added.
Yeah, there's some people that are talking on the YouTube saying they're filling out the prompt right now.
Great.
We had one comment here in the main stage chat on our Discord about Musashi saying they're always encouraging people to go to their local city council as often as they can and try to affect the most change from the municipality, right? And if the infrastructure isn't there and functioning, then create it and start meeting and start talking about it. And I think switching that narrative that we kind of, maybe our parents and before grew up with, of like, well, I'm not, the government's deciding and stuff, like us young people, us younger generations need to step into those roles and actually, do it from go through the hoops, jump through the hoops. They're waiting for you to jump through the hoops.
Yep. Exactly.
I feel like oftentimes people are very discouraged saying, well, I would have to fill out this form. And yeah, do it. There's possibly funding there for you from the local government. And they're going to go ahead and choose that project that you might not agree with just because it's the only project that stepped up and did it.
Yeah.
But imagine if 5 really good projects came and they actually had to decide between regenerative projects for your hyperlocal community,
Yep, 100%. Okay, let's maybe we dive. Yeah, Musashi, I really like that point in the main stage chat. Yeah, go to your local city council, see what you can change. All right, so how might one start initiating hyper focused action in their own community? I'm working this out, and I would love if you think this is a bad idea on my part, but I'm going to ask people that I know. Here's what I'm gonna try this out. Ask people that have been doing similar work that you want to do in the area for just general advice on everything, but also pointers on what issues are most important to people in the area, who has political, civic influence, you know, what not to do, things like that. And then like I want to, pick a neighborhood district, right? Something like that, that has some receptive community groups, leaders, to addressing a meaningful, real issue. And then what I just like to focus on, what I think is really important, is just imagination. Host an imagination, and there's probably steps that I'm skipping here. Session with local residents who care about the issues / just making their neighborhood better. And then from there, that you come up with a vision, you come up with next steps, act on the collective consensus or rough consensus of what the next steps are to realize the vision, right? And then from there, it's just like this kind of loop of sense make, right? Come up with plan, act on the plan, you know, experience roadblock probably, backslash or succeed, and then reflect, and then do it again and again, something like that. And then the semi-novel idea that I have, which I'd love to get your thoughts are, is I'm actually gonna drop this in the chat. Oops, weird pasting. I have this idea to do this whole process and document every single part of it, or there's some exceptions, right? But I'll open it.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you're even documenting it as we're doing it here. You're speaking out the questions, the answers. I think that all of this is helpful for retention, and also we often get really excited about things, but then no one writes it down, and there's nowhere to look back at it or to share it with the next person. We just kind of keep going in these circular dream conversations, right?
For sure. And I think there's something about creating a public intention and saying you're going to do this in the next week or whatever, and then even if you don't, like, it's very motivating, right? You're like, okay, why didn't I get it done in that week, right? But yeah, here's like basically the idea. Like, I want to basically help local people make change. I want to document that process to motivate myself, potentially motivate others. If this for some reason takes off in some kind of way, this opens up an opportunity for people that want to be associated with this feel-good story of making local change to be able to sponsor this, right? And so I have this vision for local civic builder influencers. That's what I want to call the kind of thing that I'm doing. That's like a whole like career where you're first and foremost actually making a difference in the local community, but second of all, you're documenting and storytelling about it so that people can sort of audit almost every part of the process and can decide if they like the way that you're approaching that change. And it's also, the benefit of documenting that is it's easy to package that into storytelling, right? If you're a corporation that wants to say that, or high net worth individual that wants to gain credibility as like a community leader, right? Community funder. Um, it's one thing to just donate to a nonprofit that sucks at storytelling. It's another thing to actually be able to just be like, hey, like, look at this great packaged content already. The impact that you're seeing on this on camera is something that we're funding. So I'm humbly saying I don't know if this is like a meme that will work. The hyperlocal builder influencer meme. I'm not even saying in terms of adoption. I don't know if it even makes sense as a concept, but I suspect that if done in a very careful way, it might be possible. Especially if you're not looking like a predatory outsider that's just trying to get views and stuff. So, thanks. This is actually the first time I've shared this with more than just like a couple people that are really my close network. So I'm excited to just share this with you. And if anyone has any questions, let me know in the couple minutes we have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing it. Now you've shared it with our whole YouTube community and
Yeah.
subscribers, but it'll also live on in our Metafest 2 Discord, which we hope will become, like an extenuation of this whole event and allow people to continue to connect and continue to work together on different notions or websites and everything.
Yep.
We have a few minutes. Our next guest isn't quite backstage, so feel free to have any closing remarks. So let's see. Looks like Change the Game is still spitting out questions.
Yeah, what are some questions? I'm not seeing them. Can you just like close them?
No, I guess those are the older ones.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, there's another question. How does it relate to hyperglobal? Great question. Yeah, we can just end with this.
Okay.
It's not easy to do hyperlocal change, and at minimum, the hyperglobal communities are sharing insights, right, and supporting each other, maybe sharing resources even in terms of like funding. I can totally imagine like a collective of hyperlocal builder influencers that are sharing resources of some sort, like a collective, right? Hyperglobal media, right? Social media is hyperglobal by default, and I think that's a feature, not a bug, when it comes to how I'm thinking about builder influencers, where you're not just creating media for that local neighborhood, right? You're creating media for anyone that's you're creating media for anyone that is watching anywhere in the world, and a huge benefit of that is that people that you might inspire new people that are like, hey, I want to be a builder influencer in my local neighborhood. And ideally, right, there's this, I'm able to succeed, or someone like me is able to succeed in a financially sustainable way, where people realize that being a non-polarizing change agent is a viable career path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Cool. Thanks for allowing me to kind of present this. And if anyone has any final questions in the chat, please drop them. But yeah, it's a pleasure to pop in today. I'm honored that I was invited.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm excited to have some time to flip through this Notion some more. And this is Saturday. We've got a little bit of a quiet crowd here. We are 10 days in, but I know that the people that are here and paying attention are really hyper focused, no puns intended, on these kind of things. Musashi, Hyperion, who's changed the game here, Unipuff for all. Permaculture, sustainability, regenerative, local community builders, very enthusiastic about these things. So you've got the right people paying attention right now, and I expect that Notion page will change very quickly here over the day. Or look, some people will add or look and support. And
yeah, and feel free to DM me if you have any thoughts on any of this, and especially if you've had actual experience doing some of this. One question that I didn't personally answer was, how does Web3 fit into this? I think DAO culture governance is huge, right? Like, to creating like local civic agency, right, where you decide what you want to do with shared resources, and just decide things together, build things together. Like, I'm really excited about DAO culture. I think it's one of the bright spots of Web3 in lieu of all these like scam tokens.
yeah.
So, I think we're a bit early in terms of DAO technology, where a lot of DAO technology will be often make the situation worse than better. But I'm thinking like in many year time horizons, and I think just us talking about this more primes us to think about what kind of tools and what kind of user experience is missing.
I completely agree, and we had a great day this past Monday, which was all tooling. So we had like Bipso, Clarity, Dwork, Coordinate, SourceCred. These are all great Web3 tools that are coming out that are helping DAOs work together, right? We've had DAO House come and speak. We spoke a little bit about gardens earlier today, and yeah, it's all fresh, like you're saying, but I am excited. I'm personally excited the most about those tools coming out and seeing people be able to transparently work together within causes or local communities or global communities, and be able to do the voting and not kind of replace maybe some of these bad reputation or scams, or DAO, those are just scams to
Right.
No, it's not, that's not what we're going for here, right?
Yep.
So yeah, the more we talk about it and the more we create the change that we're looking to work with. So thank you so much for being here.
Yep. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, y'all. Thanks for having me.
You too.
See you. Bye.
Chat.